area codes now have not a whole lot to do with where someone is, but where they got their first phone.
Right. There's real estate agents in Philly with like different state codes, which I don't recommend, but
yeah, my daughter lives in Boulder, Colorado, and her phone number's area code is 315, which is Syracuse, New York, which is where she went to college and got a new cell phone at.
Welcome to the In Your Home podcast. I'm your host, Brett Rosenthal. This podcast is about real people and real homes in Philadelphia and other cities near you. As a realtor in Philadelphia, I get to see all types of homes and meet all kinds of people, and I want to share these experiences with everybody. Tons of unique homes and some amazing people is what you will hear and see. If you like what you hear, follow us on your favorite streaming platform.
Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to another episode of the In Your Home podcast. We are right outside Cherry Street Pier in Philadelphia. We have a special guest today. I'm going to let him introduce himself now.
Hello everyone, my name is Zave Smith. That's right, it's Zave, not Dave, but Zave with a Z. I'm a commercial photographer, filmmaker, and entrepreneur. Been based here in Philly for about 30 plus years now.
Okay. I've seen some of your work online. So how long did you ever live actually in Philadelphia, or you are always outside the city?
I had a studio on 11th and Buttonwood for 20 years. It was a big 3,000 square foot studio. I used to do a lot of studio work.
Okay.
And then around the year 2000, I pivoted to doing mainly location work, and having a 3,000 square foot studio made no economic sense anymore. Yeah. So I got rid of it around 2008. But from like 1990 to about 2009. Yeah, it was 2009. I had this huge studio on 11th and Buttonwood.
Okay. Did you own it, or was it rented? Or?
No, I rented the darn place, and the guy wanted to sell it to me at one point, and I would retire really nicely if I had bought it. Yeah. But what scared me was an older building with a really old elevator, and the elevator was really important for the tenants on the second through fifth floor.
Okay.
And I was always afraid that an elevator broke, I would not be able to afford to repair it. And that's what kept me from buying the place, which was, what can I say?
Do you know what's there now?
Yeah, it was after I moved out, they turned my studio into a Baptist church, and that lasted for a little while. And now it's a storage. There's a bunch of Asian businesses in the area, they make sinks and kitchens and stuff like that, and one of them bought it, turned my studio into a storage area. Second floor became an apartment for his son. I know someone who's still renting the third floor. She's an art conservator, and I believe there's another crafts person on the other floor, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay. And so tell everyone what the current project is you're working on in Philadelphia.
The current thing I've been doing is a website called MYBKYD, and I've been doing this in conjunction with a brand design firm called Exhilarate. And we're basically telling the story of Philadelphia as seen through the eyes of our entrepreneurs and small business people and people who run little niche institutions. And we're doing this neighborhood by neighborhood. So in each neighborhood, we feature 6 places, and we do a little video interview about the place and some still photography and a written description. And it's been really interesting. So far, we've shot in Old City and in Manayunk, at the Italian Market, and at Reading Terminal, and we're just finishing up Fishtown right now.
Okay. And how long does it take to do each?
Well, we're doing this for free. It's self-funded, okay. So it's got to fit between the other work projects we get. It's taking me about 2 months per neighborhood on average. Fishtown a little longer, basically because I took most of the summer off.
Mm-hmm. So after Fishtown, do you have plans to go somewhere else? Or?
I'm going to do Center City area. Okay. I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to do Passyunk Avenue, and I want to do maybe the 54th Street business corridor in West Philly.
Okay. Is there a neighborhood in Philadelphia that you like the most? Any?
Every neighborhood has its unique things. Like, I've always loved Old City because Old City's right next to Center City, yet it seems like quiet, and it's got a certain charm to it. It's just really charming. Fishtown, I'm discovering, has become just a massive bustling of families and kids, and I love watching the kids run around. It's a lot of fun, but it's you also got, like, under the L on Girard, you got a bunch of druggies, so it goes back and forth. Yeah, and you got some really interesting stores in Fishtown. In Fishtown, we've done Jinx, the resale shop. We've done Urban Exchange, which is like vintage clothing. Those people who own that place are really great. Cake Life, which is my favorite bakery in Philly, and I've always enjoyed what they make there. You got La Colombe Coffee. We didn't do La Colombe Coffee, but it's a great little place to hang out. The rec center in Fishtown. My God, that place is full of kids and families.
Yeah.
So, and right now I'm going to be doing Toli, which is a women's clothing boutique where she designs and makes her own stuff. I'm filming there next week. And I'm doing a pole dancing studio because that's just kind of fun.
Okay. So you interview the owner of the pole dance?
I usually try to interview the owner or the creative force behind it. It's not always necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
But, what I enjoy about this project and talking to business people or entrepreneurs, mainly entrepreneurs, small business people, is they're a lot like artists in that they're full of passion and they're proud of what they're doing, and it's always a work in progress and always changing, and it's just really fun talking to them because they're just people full of, they're a little crazy, they're a little bent.
Yeah. So where do you live now?
I live out in Wallingford, which is in Delaware County, right next between Media and Swarthmore.
You like it out there?
I do, and it's where we first settled. We moved to Philly in '89, if I remember, either '88 or '89, and we settled out there. I had a job at the Franklin Mint. They were the ones who brought me out to Philadelphia, and I lasted at the Franklin Mint about 3 months before they fired my ass. And, we moved out there because it was a really good school system. I had my kids were little at the time. They were like 5, and Ben was must have been 1. Yeah, so Ben was 1, Emily was 5, and it's just an excellent school system. So that's why we moved there. It was close to the Mint and a good school system, and we've been there ever since.
Where were you before the Philadelphia area?
Oh, God, I've lived in a lot of places. I grew up in suburban Detroit.
Okay.
I left Detroit when I finished high school, and I moved to Israel, and I lived in Israel for 4 years in the mid-'70s. After Israel, I lived in Chicago for a short period of time. Then I went to college in Milwaukee, met a woman in Milwaukee and married her. We lived there from 78 to about 88, so about 10 years. Started my career there, and then the economy kind of tanked, and I got a job offer in Hartford, Connecticut. So we moved to Hartford, lasted 2 years in Hartford, didn't really love the place.
Yeah, I've been there.
And then I got a job offer here, and I came down to Philadelphia. And my brother was also here. He was on the faculty of University of Pennsylvania Hospital, so having a little family here is also very nice.
What college is in Milwaukee?
I went to a place called the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design.
Still exists?
It does. They just had their 50th anniversary, and I should have gone. They had a big reunion and an alumni show, and I just didn't get there. I should have. It was a mistake.
Is that where your wife went, or you met?
No, she's completely different than me. She's actually smart. She was an educator, and she went to the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and got a degree in teaching and special ed. So she taught for about 10 years and then moved into school administration, which is where she finished her career here at a charter school up in the Northeast called Mariana Brissetti, which is an amazing school. But she was the assistant principal of our local middle school and high school for a while. She's taught a lot of places, and she's currently in retirement on the school board of the Wallingford Swarthmore School System.
God, I just sold a house in Wallingford, right near the high school.
Yeah, no, Wallingford's a great place. It's funny, being an educator, anyone who does it, it's I spend a lot of time in the woods. And one of the things one of the adages my wife and I always joke about, the most dangerous place in the woods is between a bear and her cubs. And that's where educators live. It's actually interesting. I just spent 2 days at a K through 8 elementary school in Kensington, which is like, Kensington's not exactly the most pristine neighborhood in Philly.
No, it's not.
And I spent 2 days at a private Christian academy in West Philly.
Okay.
And these were great schools. I had a great time there. I was photographing the kids for 2 different reasons. And the schools were clean, the kids were engaged, they were paying attention, the place had a sense of security, they were quiet. It was just, except when the wind on the playground, then all hell broke loose, which is what you should have, right?
Yeah.
Schools are amazing places. I enjoy photographing kids.
So all these jobs you got, do people come to you? Do you approach them to get them, or is it
most of the time? I've been around for a while. I have a reputation.
So people find you.
People find me. I do some promotion. It's funny, when I started out my career, I knew how to promote myself. There was kind of a formula. Like Friday afternoon, I could make a dozen phone calls. I would set up 5 appointments for the following week. Out of those 5 appointments, showing my portfolio, talking about what I do at various ad agencies, I'd end up with 1 job, and rinse and repeat. Nowadays, I have no idea. The longer I do this, the whole ad business has gone through such a revolution.
Yeah.
It used to be pretty simple. You had 1 major newspaper, 1 major magazine, 3 or 4 major TV outlets. You had billboards. People knew what to do. Nowadays, in today's media market, it's different. It's also, if you're doing an ad, let's say you're in real estate, so you want to do an ad with you next to a beautiful house, right? And it's going to be a double-page spread in a well-printed magazine like Philly Magazine. Mm-hmm. That photograph has to be crafted well because people are going to see it. If you're doing a 1-inch by 1-inch thing on Instagram that's going to be on the phone, the photograph maybe has to be in focus. The level of craftsmanship that you need to do to advertise isn't what it used to be. Yeah. So people like me, and sometimes almost like dinosaur in some little way. Right. So I still get hired. It amazes me.
So out of all those places you told us you lived in, which did you like the best?
Well, I've been here a long time.
Okay. You must like it.
I do. I think Philly's a great place. What I like about Philly is it's a really big city with a lot to do, but not crazy expensive like New York or D.C. or L.A. Mm-hmm. There's also a tremendous amount of variety. Within an hour and a half of Philly, I can be down the shore, I can be up in the mountains, I can be in New York City, I can go to D.C., and I do all this stuff. I'm not one to sit at home very much. So, I can jump on the Amtrak and go to an art museum in New York City. In fact, I do that about once a month nowadays. Okay. Or down to the Smithsonian in D.C. Yeah. I do a lot. My wife and I are avid bicyclists, and Pennsylvania is blessed with a tremendous amount of rail trails. These are old railroads that have been converted to bike paths, and we have an amazing system here in Pennsylvania. So almost at least once a week, we get in the car, we drive an hour to 2 hours someplace, and go for a good day, 30, 40, 50-mile bike ride. And it's fantastic being out in the woods.
Where's the closest one? Like if someone was coming
the closest one comes right here, is the Schuylkill River Trail. And you can pick it up now in South Philly and take it all the way to Reading, PA. Yeah. And if you pivot at Oaks, you can go the other way up the Perkiomen Trail, and that takes you to Green Lane. In fact, twice I've started the art museum. I'm going to brag. Twice I started the art museum and ridden out to Green Lane and back, and that's an 88-mile round tripper. And I did that unsupported.
How long does that take?
On gravel, unsupported, I don't care how fast you ride, you average 10 miles an hour.
Okay.
So 88 miles took me about 9 hours.
Okay. Nice ride.
Yeah. Just last week I did a 52-mile ride. I started in, where did I start? Weisport, Pennsylvania. and went to Whitehaven and back. It was a beautiful fall day. I did it on a weekday, so it wasn't very busy. It's called the Delaware and Lehigh Trail. In fact, it starts here in Bristol and goes all the way up almost to Wilkes-Barre. Okay. It's just short of Wilkes-Barre. And I've ridden most of it, not continuously, but in segments. So it was a beautiful day, and it was a 52-mile round-trip ride. It was a lot of fun. Couldn't walk the next day, but it was a lot of fun.
Is there anything you don't like or you think can be improved with Philadelphia?
Yeah, there's a few things that we could do better. I think one of the problems of Philadelphia is we don't understand just how great of a city we are. Philadelphians love to dish on Philly, and we are a great city with a lot of great people doing a lot of great things. We're a beautiful city too. I wish people took a little more pride. Like, I think the current mayor, Cheryl's her name? I can't suddenly remember. I think her 3-point initiative about clean, green, and safe is exactly the 3 things that we need to work on as a city. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great place to do business because the cost of doing business here is reasonable compared to, again, New York or D.C. We have great transportation, and there's just a lot to do here. Yeah. You know, New York City's got, I love going to New York. I go there all the time. But if you live in Manhattan and you want to go somewhere, it's a schlep, you know? And if you live out in Queens or Brooklyn and you want to go, let's say, the other side, like Jersey or further west, it's a real schlep. Here, it's like, it's easy.
Yeah. I agree. I was in New York probably a month ago, and they had some UN conference there, and it was, you couldn't move.
No, it gets crazy. It gets crazy. You know, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art's one of the world's great museums. Yeah. You can't go there on a weekend. In fact, during the summer, you can't go on a weekday. It's just too busy. So I like to go, let's say, a random Tuesday in the wintertime when it's snowing outside.
Because you'll get it.
And it's still busy, but at least you can see stuff.
Yeah. So you've told us you met tons of people in the Philadelphia entrepreneurial community. What's the sense you get from these people that do this?
Well, there's the startup community, entrepreneurial community, and in Philly, it has a lot to do with medicine and pharmacy and bio devices. The first sense I get from them is most of those people are a lot smarter than I am. It's just incredible. I was at one meetup over at the Philadelphia Startup Leaders. Okay. And I'm talking to this one guy. He's about 35 years old. And he told me the story is when he was a little boy, his grandfather got hurt in an accident and could no longer walk. And he didn't understand. He was only like 5 or 6, and he asked his granddad, he said, "Why can't you walk anymore?" And he said, "Well, I was in an accident, and they broke a wire in my spine, and my legs don't respond." And this kid, because of that, got motivated to study medicine, and he's invented a way to regrow nerves, to connect, using some sort of enzyme or something he got from worms. Now, the funny thing is he turned out to be a fraternity brother of my son down at Tulane University, which is crazy, right? Small town. But like that kind of genius to do that, and then not only to have the genius to actually figure out the science, but to raise the money and to build a business around it, that takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of smarts. It takes a lot of social capital. You know, you got to know how to talk to people and convince them to give you money. There's stories like that I hear all over town, and I love it. And then you got there's a woman in Old City, Claudia Schmidt, right? Mm-hmm. She has a small little place called Claudia Schmidt Rugs. Okay. And she's got looms in there, and they hand weave rugs.
Right there
on 3rd Street. You go, how could anyone make a business of hand weaving rugs in Philadelphia in the 21st century? She's got one, and it's working well for her. Yeah. There's so many really interesting restaurants and bars like Amina over on Chestnut and Front Street. And it's a black-owned woman. She went into the restaurant business, has done really well. The place is packed. The food is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And you just talk to these people. You know, one of the funniest things was a guy owns a Goat's Beard. He's got 2 of them, one in the main line and one in Manayunk. So I interviewed him, and his name was Brandon. And I asked him at one point, "What's your favorite thing on the menu?" And he says, "Oh, we have this thing called a smash burger, and it's a half pound of select meat, and it's got onions, and it's got this, and it's greasy, and it's salty, and it's tasty, and it's gooey." And I'm 45, and I can only eat one of them a year now because I have to watch what I eat. Entrepreneurs are wonderful people, and they're all over this town. There's all sorts of startups going on.
Yeah, and they keep coming.
They keep coming. And we have it's a good place to start a business because our cost structure here is, again, very competitive with the other East Coast cities. And yet the talent pool, coming out of the universities is amazing. It really is.
Yeah. So your kids all left like this area?
No, my son actually is a vice president of finance over at WHYY.
Okay.
And got married to this amazing woman, has a 3-year-old, and they bought a home 1 mile from us.
Yeah,
So, in fact, after I get done here, I have to go babysit a little bit. And my daughter is an avid outdoors woman.
Okay.
And she married a guy from Colorado, and they live in the Boulder area. They both work in tech.
Okay.
And live in the very inexpensive, cheap-to-live Boulder, Colorado market, where you can buy a 10-square-foot home for about $1 million.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I got asked the same exact question on a podcast the other day, and I failed it miserably, even though I think I knew a lot more than I did. But when you put me on the clock for 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you to name as many celebrities that grew up in Philadelphia as you can.
Oh, I couldn't do very many at all.
I
I can tell you the number of celebrities I've met.
Then let's do that.
Beyonce.
How did you meet her?
I was down in New Orleans. I did a lot of work in New Orleans in the 5 years post-Katrina for New Orleans tourism.
Okay.
So I got to meet. In fact, at one point I thought I knew New Orleans better than any city that I hadn't lived in.
Okay.
And I mainly saw New Orleans through the minority community because that agency that brought me in basically did minority and gay and lesbian tourism. That was their niche. So I was at Essence Festival, and I got to photograph Beyonce. Jamie Lynn Spears, I photographed her once for Nickelodeon out on Pepperdine University when she had that children's show called Zoe 101.
I remember that.
I photographed a couple senators over the years. Cole was the one I remember the most because it was a bizarre situation that I photographed him in. Who else have I photographed celebrity-wise? That's drawing me a blank at this point.
Okay. How was Beyonce?
I didn't get to talk to her. She was on stage performing.
So you were just shooting.
I was just shooting this performance, but at one point she was this far away from me. And she's basically giving this almost like a lap dance to the security guard who was next to me at the bottom of the stage. And the sweat's pouring off her, and I'm thinking, if I could just bottle some of this, I can make some money here,
Yeah.
It's funny because I really didn't know her work before I saw this concert. And I was listening to her, and she's just an amazing voice. I mean, there's two of her albums, like Cowboy Carter and Lemonade, I think are just some of the best albums ever done.
Yeah. I've never been a huge Beyonce fan, but I gotta.
Most
but
of her
she's
stuff,
talented.
yeah, most of her stuff I don't really like.
Yeah.
Those two albums blow my socks off.
Yeah. If there's anyone that's a celebrity that you could film, who would be your dream?
Ooh, I don't know. Be kind of fun talking to Bob Dylan,
Okay.
Joni Mitchell. I mean, these are brilliant people.
Yeah.
Leonard Cohen, but it'd be difficult because he's no longer with us. But you know what? Photographing someone who's no longer here would be kind of a real coup, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't met the current mayor. I've met some of the other mayors over the years. I would like to meet her one day. Who else would I enjoy hanging out with? That kind of sums it up.
Yeah. And out of all the cities like you've been
Wynton
to,
Marsalis. I love
Yeah.
his music. Yeah.
Yeah.
I photographed his dad.
Okay.
I photographed his dad, got to meet him, shook his hand, He was, I was down at Xavier University doing a lookbook for Xavier University in New Orleans.
Okay.
And that's where I got to meet him.
Isn't Xavier in Cincinnati? Or
They have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There's one in Chicago, but I was doing the one in New Orleans.
Okay. So out of all the cities you've worked in, which city, surprised you the most? That you weren't
I would
expecting?
say what surprised me the most was Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
Okay.
I got to go down there for about a week.
Right.
And I had a handler, and I had this pass that got me into everything, right? But before I went down there, I really didn't know what I was to expect. And I thought, Mardi Gras, it's just going to be a bunch of
Crazy
boobs
drugs.
and booze, It wasn't. I mean, it is that way on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter. In the rest of Louisiana and in the rest of the city, it's an amazing family and community holiday. I never saw so many people having so much fun. And it reminded me about Philly when the Phillies won the World Series, about 2008? Yeah, okay. How the city was just full of joy. Mardi Gras has that sense of joy.
Okay.
You got all these parades. You got all these parties. I mean, I remember this one scene. There was a parade. And, they throw the beads off the things and you catch them, right? And if you don't catch it, if it falls to the ground, you don't pick it up. And everyone knows these beads are worthless, right? But everyone gets into really catching them. I remember this one shot I have of this very, an older woman, obviously a matron with a lot of money. She was well dressed. She had the jewelry. She had the makeup, the whole 9 yards. And next to her is a little African-American girl about 5 years old, obviously not from a family of means. And they're standing next to each other, both with these wonderful expressions of joy, trying to catch these beads. And where do you see that,
Yeah.
So I would say Mardi Gras in New Orleans was probably one of the most surprising things. The other one, L.A. And the thing about L.A. is I remember I was doing a shoot for a software company, and we had to go back and get something for some reason. It was only a mile and a half away.
Right.
It took an hour to get there. It was crazy.
Yeah. I used to love LA, and I went there this summer. I went to down the coast of California to a lot of really great places, but LA, same thing, little rides just took forever. And I'm I don't think I could do this anymore. I just didn't like it as much as I did years ago when I went there.
Yeah. Were you raised here in the Philly area?
I was born in Philly. I grew up out in Montgomery County most of my life. I lived in New York City, and I've been in the city for a few years now.
So what keeps you in Philly?
So family, kind of like you said, to me, it's the perfect medium. I've lived in New York City, and while I loved New York City, I think you have a certain time frame where you need to get out, or you just go crazy. It's just more practical. It's not, it's a little expensive, but way more affordable than any of the other big cities, and you're close to anywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
I could go to New York City tomorrow, and I could go for the day if you really want.
So how's the real
beach
estate
towns.
business treating you?
It's treating me well. It's exciting.
Uh-huh.
You never know what you're going to get.
Uh-huh.
I'll have a story pretty much every month for the rest of my life that I never would have thought I would have had.
What do you mean by that?
You just meet people with either the person themselves is just could be crazy, could be nice, could be just different, and you never know what you're going to get until you meet them. And there's just an endless, there's so many situations that even when you think you've done it all, something new pops up. I'm trying to think of one. I mean, the thing I could think of, no, that's pretty common, but selling a house to people that are divorced when the one person hired me and the other person just wants to hate me because the other person hired you, even though I've done nothing wrong. But while that's not the ideal situation, it's different, and it keeps me on my feet. And it's just you run into stuff just different things all the time.
I get into a lot of businesses, and I get into a lot of homes. We rent a lot of homes for shoots, and we get into a lot of business, people's homes for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes to shoot a portrait of someone in their home. And it always amazes me how people live, what their house is like. And it really tells a story about, how you built your nest. And some people are very meticulous, some people are very clean, some people are sloppy, some people are, hoarders, What kind of stuff do you find you run into?
So in the last couple of weeks, I sold a house, actually, I think on Monday. It was an inheritance, and it was a brother and sister. The sister moved out to the Poconos, didn't want any part of the house except for selling it. The brother lived in the house and was a hoarder. And I don't even know how it sold because I was basically telling people, I think you have to knock down the house and start over. It was that bad. and also it was like almost in foreclosure, and it was 3 days away from the bank just taking it, and someone walked in and bought it, and then it wasn't really discussed, but in my mind I was hoping that the brother actually moved out of the house. So we went to the closing, and then an hour and a half after the closing, I get a text from the agent saying, "Hi, they're still here." And kind of expected it. And
how do you deal with that? You have to get him evicted?
So I never met him personally. I worked with the sister who was a lot more with it and wasn't the hoarder. I contacted her, and luckily it worked out. She said, "He's moving, but he'll be out in an hour." And I wasn't sure if that really would happen, but it did. It did. He was actually out in an hour, so it worked out, but it was a little stressful. And then the other thing that stands in mind, I went for a listing appointment a couple of weeks ago. A house in West Philly that was actually really nice inside. A woman who actually moved, I think, from Maryland to Philly and just never liked Philly, or at least the part of the area that she moved to. And I went for the listing appointment, and in the basement, she had plastic shelving drawers,
Mm-hmm.
and millions of them, and each drawer had a label on it. She would go into YouTube, and she must find some channel where they tell you to collect certain home products because they're going to be worth something someday. So she had I'm trying to think what Heinz ketchup from 2002 in drawer, and just millions of them. And I said, she's like, "This will all be out of here in 2 weeks when we list the house." And she's like, I go, "You sure it's gonna?" Because it was hoarding, but organized hoarding. I can't even remember some of the stuff. I want to go back and get a picture, but year 2013, mayonnaise.
I was once shooting an ad campaign for the Price Auto Group on the Delmarva Peninsula. And what they did is we photographed, I don't remember how many, 5 or 10 different customers of them. People had bought cars, but we went to their homes or their businesses and did portraits of them. And we went to this one woman's house. It was, I think, in Newcastle, if I remember. This is a while ago. I was still shooting film. That's how long ago it was. And she collected dolls and baskets, Lodenberry baskets, I think they were called, and some doll.
Yeah.
And her house was stuffed, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of this stuff. And you go, why? Why? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But we all have our own our own craziness.
Definitely. Sometimes it's good.
Yeah, sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's interesting, and sometimes you go, why? Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Well, so again, that's why I think that's why I like real estate. I wake up every morning and I have no idea who I'm going to meet, what they're going to be like.
I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
One of the things I love to do is when I go to someone's home, especially if it's the first time I've been in their home, I love looking at their books, records, magazines, to get a sense of what I call their personal culture.
Yeah.
What do they see? But lately, I know in my own house, we digitized most of that stuff, 10 years ago. So, in my iPad's got 400 books. It's not 400 books on a bookshelf anymore because I gave away too many books over the years, right? I have 1,000 records, CDs on, my iTunes library, plus whatever I can get off Spotify. If you walk in my house, there's photographs on the wall and some other artwork, but you don't get that sense of like, what am I reading? What am I listening to? What am I watching? And I'm thinking, people walk in here, they probably think I'm an idiot because there's none of that shit around, you know? What do you think when you walk into people's homes? Do you look at that stuff?
I definitely do look at it, and I've seen stuff that you can't even believe, like, they still have.
Like what?
I'm trying to, like, dolls from, like, you know, when I was, like, 8 years old. But nobody has now. Records, art, sports posters from, like, teams that won the championships in the 70s, and, like, products that don't exist anymore. I wish I could. I actually, usually when I'm in these houses, I'll take pictures of just unique things. And I want to make like a reel or something one day.
You could do a really interesting montage.
Yeah.
So what do you find weirder?
Yeah.
The house that's stuffed with all this memorabilia and collectibles, or maybe stuff that isn't quite a collectible, or a house you walk into and is pristine and there's
nothing.
There's nothing there, you know.
I think it's a combination. I think so the house that has nothing and no pictures, no anything, I would be scared of that person. But at the same time,
you wonder what's underneath the basement, huh?
Yeah, right. But at the same time, some of the stuff that people collect or keep, they're not even, I shouldn't say collect, because some of them just don't get rid of it.
Right.
Is sometimes too much also. So, like, it's, I guess though, the people that keep some stuff is probably better than the house that's...
So when you walk into a home, you have to market it, right?
Yeah.
So then oftentimes you probably have to tell people they have to do certain things to their house. They have to clean it up, they have to personalize it, they have to whatever. How do people react to that?
So most of the people say they're going to do it and then don't do it. Some people who are really follow the rules will do it. And some people will just flat out tell me, I'm not doing it. So it depends.
And how much do you think them following those rules or not actually affects how much they can get for the house in today's crazy market?
So if it's in Wallingford, I don't think it matters. I could tell them anything and they could tell me I'm not doing it and it doesn't matter. But in the city, if you make the house look presentable, it does help. It does help. But it's also the extent and the area and how popular the house is. And there's times where you just don't have to do it. And there's times where it does help.
So what do you think's the hottest neighborhood in Philly right now?
I don't know if there's particularly a hot neighborhood, but there's certain neighborhoods that are just good. Like, I'm trying to think, like Graduate Hospital, Fittler Square, Queen Village. They're just like guaranteed to sell.
Anywhere close to a hospital where I got the medical personnel.
Yeah. You're just trying to think where else. There's a lot of like hot selling neighborhoods, but if the house isn't marketed right at the right price, it kind of doesn't matter. Yeah.
How hard is it for you to get listings nowadays?
So I focus on listings primarily. I don't give away buyers, but I do give away buyers. Like, if it's a really good buyer, I work with them, but I'm just so busy on the listing side and market it right that I don't have a hard time getting them.
How do you get listings? I would think that'd be
probably
much
similar
tougher
to you.
getting buyers.
I've done so many that like people just find me. I don't call people randomly to get listings. People find me on the internet, social media. My website has like creeped up on the search engines. I think I've made so many videos that if you type Philadelphia Realtor, I just somehow pop out some way. So people call me. I get referrals from people who have used me, and like
you told me before we started filming that you just love sales. Yeah. That's your key. That you used to be an attorney and you've had some other careers, but sales is really what you like to do. What do you think is the thing that makes a good salesperson? What skills?
So definitely, and again, I say sales. I don't consider real estate sales.
Okay.
I mean, it is, but it's the number one thing to me is you have to listen to the person that you're talking to.
Completely agree.
And it's also the number one thing that almost 95% of realtors specifically don't do or care.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that do, I think, are the ones that do well. So that's why I like listings, because when I go into someone's house, everyone asks me, what do I do to get the listing? And I just tell them, I sit there and I listen to them basically and like react based on what they do. I think houses sell themselves if they're the right price and in the right area. You don't have to, I never feel like I'm selling. Negotiating sometimes, but never like, I never convince someone to buy a house. They either want it or they don't.
Right.
So
I think it's got to be a visceral reaction. You either like the place or you don't, or you like it enough.
right.
You know.
And then the people that hire me to sell their house, I'd say 90% of it is just that they like me, not. I mean, it helps that I've had some experience and some success, so they see that. But if I walk in there and push them hard to sell it, I feel like that backfires.
Now, you've been in real estate, I think you told me 5 years?
6.5 years.
So you've never really worked in a down market, like the 2008, 2009 crash, or let's see, we bought our home. It was right after the first Gulf War, so it was like 91 or 92, and you couldn't give a house away back then.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be much different if this market ever kind of freezes up a bit?
So I didn't deal with 2008, luckily, and I actually was with someone last night who quit real estate after that. She had been in real estate for a long time and said when that happened, it was like, I mean, between like it being sad for the people she sold houses, and she just had enough. So I didn't have to deal with that, but the last 2 years have kind of been a down market.
Well, yeah, because you can't get listings.
It's hard for listings. The mortgage rates are high, so a lot of people just totally dropped out of the market. And as it's come down a little recently, I've already seen people
More
jump back in.
Yeah.
So hopefully never see something like that. And they don't think that's going to happen, but.
What do you think the city should do or could do, in addition to what's ever currently going on, to increase the number of increase the size of the housing stock?
The city?
Or is it mainly a suburban phenomenon where there's just not?
Well, the suburbans, that's in the suburbs. There's just not a lot, because people move out there, they like it, and they just combine with the rates. They don't want to go anywhere because they have to pay for a house for more. But the city's a little better. As far as increasing the inventory, the city does a good job with like grants and stuff like that for first-time home buyers. But maybe if like there was some sort of like incentive if somebody sells their house but stays in the city, even if they're not a first-time home buyer. So almost like you're selling the house in Philly but moving somewhere else. Philly.
What do you think is the biggest resistance to people from buying a house in Philly or buying a condo in Philly?
New people, or
yeah,
I think Philly gets a bad name sometimes from people who actually are outside of the city. And I've noticed the people that move to Philly from outside, they don't leave. But, so like that's part of it. I mean, there's definitely like parts of the city that needs to be fixed. Like in my mind, the number one problem is trash.
Yeah.
And I go to some of these other. I was just in Montreal. I was telling you, what is that? Some sort of fish just jumped.
Oh, that's Michael. He died last week.
So like to me, I was just in like Montreal, Canada, and like it's a big city and there's no trash.
Yeah.
The only negative is that people smoke like crazy all over the streets, but like trash.
But they smoke French cigarettes, so it's cool.
Yeah. But like here, it's just such a trash problem, and it's not just
I don't
here.
understand it.
I don't either. Like it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to. I don't know.
Seems impossible.
Yeah, and it does seem impossible.
Yeah.
I've never.
I would agree that like flying into city through the airport, it's like amazing to me how dirty it is. It's like, why should this airport be dirty?
Yeah.
You know, but it is. Actually, I flew in from Denver 2 nights ago, and I had something happen to me that's never happened before. I got, from the time the plane pulled to the gate, so I only had my luggage, I had a checked bag, and was out in front to get a ride. It was like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Usually it's an hour. But of course it was midnight, but the luggage came right away, and it was like, wow, this is going pretty smooth. But usually at that airport, trying to wait for your luggage, and it's like, yeah, the city needs to do something about the airport. It's like our first impression when people come to visit, and it really should be a welcoming, warm, nice, clean Philly experience, like a hug.
I agree.
Yeah, instead of more like be yelled at. Brett, what do you like to do for fun?
So, a lot of things. I don't like to sit at home. I like to do things. I work out actively. Still play ice hockey here and there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have a son that plays ice hockey that's probably on his last year, unless he plays in college.
Mm-hmm.
So I travel with that a lot. I like walking through the city. I have a dog. I do that. I like, what else do I do? I go out to restaurants all over the city. It's like an endless thing.
And you're in real estate, so you like to make money.
I do like to make money, but I'm not one of those agents that needs to make money just to make money. I like enjoy my life.
No, it seems like you got into it because of the people and the social aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least I got into it because I thought I could be good at it, and then that came about.
It was funny. People often ask me why I had become a photographer, and one of my pat answers is because it was the only thing I was really good at. It's true.
Yeah. And, and I like to travel. This job, I think, allows me to travel because I'm not like at a 9 to 5, and I could work from anywhere pretty much.
Uh-huh.
So I do that too.
Cool.
Anyway, this has been great. We have an amazing view here. And
start again with "This is great." He's got the
okay. So this was great today. We're at great view here. Thanks for coming on.
It's my pleasure.
Before we leave, let anyone know how they could see your work.
I'm very easy. My name is Zave Smith, again with a Z. Z is in zebra, A. V is in Victor, E. Last name Smith. And I'm the only one in the country. So if you Google my name, you find me. You can find my website. You can find the My Backyard website. You can find Exhilarate's website. The work's good. It's a lot of fun to look at. So a lot of stories of Philadelphia, a lot of photographs of kids and all sorts of things. So Zave Smith at zavesmith.com.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yep.
Take care.
See ya.